Hey everyone. So I'm recording this Maya tutorial. So if you go to the Google Drive, you'll see three things in here. One is the slides from the presentation folder with the grid shaders I showed off. And then a folder with my Maya preferences. So this will give you my custom toolbar. So to add that, you'll download the preferences folder and then you'll drop it into documents, Maya, and then whatever year your Maya is under the preference folder. And then once you do that and restart Maya, this custom toolbar will go in. So my goal here is just to kind of give you like a nice basic overview of how to start working it. So what we'll do is we'll start with the 3D connection mouse. So if you're able to get one of these, pretty much it's plug and play, but one thing to make sure you have on is if you go into properties, advanced settings, make sure you're not in object mode, make sure you're in camera mode. Because if you're in object mode, basically the pivot point will be the object instead of just holding the camera the whole time. And then the other thing is hotkeys. You're going to want to go to Windows, Preferences, Hotkey Editor from the drop down. It'll bring in like duplicate 1, 2, basically. All those are the same and save. So just like that, you'll have my hotkeys, which are the step snap size. So as if you look here, as I hit the hotkeys WASQ, you'll see my step size changes. So that's going to help me model in Maya. And speaking of hotkeys, if you're starting to just start using hotkeys for everything, I'll kind of go through the custom shelf later, but to go through the hotkeys, so just like Unreal, if you hit F, it'll zoom in. If you aren't using a 3D mouse and you hold Alt, you'll get kind of rotation. You can mouse wheel to zoom in, right click to do that as well. But yeah, that's how you move the mouse. Other hotkeys are if you hit 4, 5, and 6, that's going to switch between the different render modes. So 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded, and then 6 is full shader with texture maps. The main hotkeys you use in Maya are to switch between the different object modes. So F8 is whatever your previous mode is in object mode. F9 will always take you to vert mode. F11 will take you to edge mode. And then, sorry, F10. And then F11 will take you to face mode. So yeah, let's start kind of modeling. So at this point, I know like what my metrics are. I know this cube I created is 1 meter by 25 meter. And then let's start with a nice doorway. I believe is 2. So there's 2 ways to kind of model stuff. You can either just duplicate shapes. So you constantly have the model create on itself, or you can extrude, which I'll show next. But right here, like I can select verts, I can select faces, but I'm always just moving kind of the shape according to the step size. Right here is my nice 2 by 2 doorway. And then I'm going to want to make sure the height of my doorway is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a doorway and a wall. Let's go ahead and make a window. And the way I'll make the window is I'll do the extrude method. So here's my mesh. What I'll do is I'll make sure this goes to 1. And then if I hit extrude, and my extrude is set to 1 meters. So this on the custom shelf is the short hotkey for extrude. But if you want to go to the properties, you'll go to edit mesh, extrude, click the properties box, and then from here I can change the thickness to like 2 meters or a quarter, but it's good at 1, so we'll set it at 1. So here you can see, like, I know my window is 1 meter off the ground, and then it's too high. We'll go ahead and extrude. I'll go on here. My pro tip, if you hit G, it'll always run the last command you did. So I know every time I hit G, I'll get the extrude. I'm hitting W, which puts me back into move. If I hit R, it'll give me R will give me scale, and then E will give me rotate, and then W. That's a way to move through everything. And then if I do a couple more extrudes here, get the full model. So like that, there's 2 different ways to kind of model geo. It's all generally tends to be the same result because you're making block mesh. It doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and change this doorway to be 3 meters as well. Yeah, so there we go. So the next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to like duplicate this 3 more times to build the rest of the shape. So if you hit Control D, it'll duplicate. And you can move it around, but then you'll notice when you try to rotate it, it's rotating them on the pivot point. So to solve this, all you'll do is hit Control G to group, and then like that, the pivot ends up always at 0. And now if I go here to this hotkey, I'll hit center pivot, so it'll center the pivot. But then I can also hit insert. If I could find that on this laptop. Here. Yep, if I hit insert, I can now edit the pivot point. If I hold V, it'll snap to Maya edges and to Maya verts. So we can go ahead and snap this to there, and then I'll hit that, and now I'm rotating it right there on the pivot. So there we get a nice kind of rotation. I'll go ahead and move that like so. That looks good. I'll duplicate and group and then rotate again. And yeah, that's kind of how quick kind of you can get to model stuff in Maya because it is kind of geo. You can see here this is slightly off. If I just move around, yeah, that's fine for now. And it did that because of the pivot point of the rotation. But what's great about Maya is that at any point I can just be like, oh, you know what, I don't want a doorway here. I am going to just go ahead, close that up. Or if you're iterating, see, this is off. Yep, I can go ahead and I can add like a corner to the building. So I could just kind of take this. And actually, yeah, let's kill the window on this side. And me personally, I only like to extrude when I'm doing something a bit more kind of complex and necessary. But for now, like this, totally fine. And then that's fine. So just like that, we have a corner kind of building. If I build out like the floor, I can like duplicate it. Let me show you like the split edging stuff, which is what I really like to do when my shapes are getting more kind of complex. I'll try and do that kind of later when I make stuff like rock and caves and such. Right here, I'm building out the floor, and then I'll go into wireframe. Again, that's 4. Hotkey number 4. If I hit Control Z on a selection, I'll get it back. And then all I'm doing is kind of matching the floor to the building. And then when I hit F11 to go into face mode, I can then extrude this mesh. And then just like that, we have a nice floor. And then let's go to this point. I can say, oh, I want my floor to be 1 meters, and then I can say, oh, I want like a nice kind of, so if I go and then extrude from here, I can get like a porch. If I extrude again, I can get like a nice staired ramp. And like I said, in the metrics, for every 1 meter you go down, you need to go 2 across. So if I go 2 and then 1, that's the correct kind of slope. And then if I'm getting even more complex, I can go like this, and then very quickly I can build the stairs. 1, 2. So this is, yeah, that's when I like to do kind of extrude. And then what I can do is I can select all the faces like so, and then pull that down, and we get a nice kind of ramped thing here. So you'll see, hey, this is kind of off. So one of the things, really amazing tool that's here in the custom toolbar is the Worldspace Tool. What this does is it gets the position of whatever you have selected. So if I have a vert and I do get Worldspace, it gets the coordinates. So I then can apply those. So if I hit apply, it'll match everything. But here I don't want that. I just want like the Y value. And then because it's consistent, I can get the Y value of that. So I use this to really like clean up like my meshes. You can see here, like this isn't flush, so I can get the world space of it, snap it there. Oh, it's not the X, it's the Z. Oh, I had another extra face selected there. That's why I got all kind of warped. Again, this is where having the 3D mouse really helps. Oh boy, selection's getting goofy, but just like that, hey, I can kind of clean up my mesh all kind of nicely there. So yeah, that was just a quick hard surface kind of model stuff. Trying to save my scene. But what we'll do is let's sculpt some terrain. So to do that, you'll just create a terrain plane. So if you go to create, polygons, plane. And so here you like set the width and the height. 20 sounds about right, and then width and divisions. And actually what you'll do is you'll make that 20 and 20, so you don't get a single plane. Get a plane that is subdivided. So what we'll do is we'll make some sculpted terrain on here. So when you sculpt terrain, you have 2 options. You can do the sculpt with the brush, or you can do a soft select. And the brush is very similar to if you've done landscape in Unreal. And here the hotkey is this forerunner with the flower. Yeah, and it's very similar. Like here I have a radius of the brush. And I can set like the height, how much it goes. That's what the max displacement is. And the one thing to kind of mess with to make sure you have it correct is getting this update on each stroke, right? So there is adding on it. And if I check the box and update, eventually it won't. But the trick to sculpting terrain is to getting kind of that sculpt and then just always just smoothing it so it looks really good. So that's kind of my intent. But yeah, if you do like let's do a bigger one here, just so you can see like a nice kind of sculpt. Let's crank this up to 60. There we go, some terrain. And then how I like to do terrain is to keep in mind like what your brush is. So 6, like our scale for like a normal size room is like 8 meters, which is what this room nearly is. So if I understand, and 8 is the width of a road, if I understand I'm at 6, so I'm painting less than a road. This is again trying to keep the scale, but a good way is to do kind of 2 meters up. So I can like kind of paint it here, I can kind of go down, and then I'm just trying to get like nice kind of sculpt, and then that's all good because I'm just going to smooth it out after. That looks really good. Trick here is if I get a water plane, and then another kind of pro move is if I use the Worldspace tool, and then I create a mesh at 0, I can then like snap and apply it because I got the worldspace of that one vert. And don't worry about the shaders, we're going to get to that kind of last here, but go like this. Hey, this is going to be like my water plane, or it can be like a nice kind of ground path kind of plane. But just like that, we have like a nice kind of sculpt. Because it's Maya, another super benefit of Maya is if I hit F9, I can select the verts, they can go up and down. But even better is that I can go into soft selection. So on your tool settings or S on your hotkeys, you can go to soft select, and it will give you like a nice kind of blend of pulling the verts based on like what your fall off radius is. So that's 12 meters, so we know what 12 meters is. So 6 meters, I know, getting kind of this. So that's what how I like to sculpt terrain. I like to kind of use the brush tool and then get more specific with this, and then just understand like how much I'm pulling it. Even better thing is if I kind of, I'm like, oh, I don't really like this height of kind of the edges. I want it to match this. I can use my Worldspace tool and soft select, and that'll give me, it'll like do a soft select but match everything on there. So I was like, okay, that's good, because at this point I can go back with my brush tool and smooth it over. And even another kind of pro move is to use flood, which is right here in the brush sculpt geometry tool. Is if I hit this flood button with the vert selected, Maya is just going to do an average of it, so it's getting like a nice smoothing. So because I have those verts, I'm seeing that kind of flood. But if I have the whole mesh, you're going to see here it's just averaging everything down. So if I feel like my stuff isn't smooth enough, hey, I'll run a flood on it. So yeah, that's terrain. You're probably saying like, this is cool, but I want to do a bit more organic stuff like Uncharted or Halo. And the way to do that is, let's start with an 8x8 kind of mesh. What I like to do here is just, if I turn off soft selection, is I'm gonna kind of build like a rock or a mound, and all it takes is some subdividing, and then sure, some soft select. So here I'm in, oops, here I'm gonna hit F10 and go to the edge mode. I'm gonna go to soft select. And then what I'm gonna do, let's kind of turn that down slightly. Because like that, all I'm kind of doing is trying to make like a nice organic kind of rock kind of sculpt. And there's no, there's no wrong way to kind of do this. I'm just trying to get like a nice non-rectilinear kind of shape, like organic kind of rock shape. So that's already starting to look pretty good. I can spend some more time like subdividing it and kind of pulling it. So, but for me, this feels pretty good, because what I can kind of do is at any point with my hotkeys, turn off soft select, is I can hit R to go scale. So there I can kind of scale this guy and get a good shape. I can take the original guy and then just kind of scale him up. So the goal is just to get like some nice kind of organic kind of rock shapes. And here I hit F4, make sure I have the right faces I want, turn on soft select. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of go and make mountains. Because yeah, really you're just by duplicating and rotating it, that's how you build like nice kind of rock walls. Again, don't worry about the shaders, we'll get those to the end. And yeah, when I'm building like a mountain path, what I'll do is I'll always have like my basic kind of path kind of shape, and this isn't great because of this. So let's change that. And then we'll go ahead and just duplicate this top. Let's adjust this. So you can see right there, I have like a nice little kind of mountain crevice, and I'm not happy with this side. So let's just kind of fix that like so. So that looks pretty good. And then, yeah, the trick with this is so that isn't flush, but what I can do now is I can select my faces and then drag select so I only get this side. And oh, I kind of missed it. Shape, there we go. Let's turn off soft selection. Because what I want is I just want like this one side of faces, and then I'll hit F4, make sure I have everything. Because then what I want to do is I want this, and then I'm just going to start subdividing it. So I can then hit E to rotate. And rotate it again. So you see I got like a nice kind of curve to it already. And I'll show what that hotkey I did was, but because then what I can do is I can then fill in the walls here really nicely. Don't like that edge there, so. But yeah, you can see here, like now I have a nice, like organic kind of cliffside. You're probably thinking like, hey, it's flat. But the good news is, because it's Maya, I just have to grab these verts for these faces, and we can go down a couple meters. So like that, we have like a nice sloping down sort of thing. If I want to, I can even go and select these faces, put them up a meter. So it's like, oh, you have a little slope up, and then a reveal, and then there's the edge, and it slopes down. So that's like a nice kind of quick way to do it. Because a similar way is to do, like, say you want to rock a cave. So the trick to do that is I'm going to start with my 8x8, extrude up. I'm going to go ahead and subdivide this guy and make like a cave shape. And punch a, got one too many faces here. So I'm going to punch a hole in it, and then you're going to say to yourself, hey, it's hollow inside. So the trick to that is, one, to make sure you have backface culling on. So it's only rendering what side the face the normal is facing. So you're going to say, oh, we want this flipped. So to do that, you go to Mesh. Sorry, looking for it. Mesh. Here it is. Sorry. Mesh display normals reverse. And that reverses the normals of it. So right here we have like a cave, and then what I do is I just take this guy, and either I can extrude it or I can subdivide it, sorry, split ring it. but just like everything else, because it's verts and everything. So here I have like a nice tunnel. I can already start deciding like the heights of, I can divide it more and add some rotation to it. So you can see that it has like a nice kind of turn, and we go down. And then because I know the scale of things, I know I can go like lower on this guy. And if you're not happy with like kind of the turn, the good news is you just start splitting it kind of more. And then what's even good about mine is you can go ahead and start adding different kind of widths, because we're going to say this is a really nice organic cave. And then you can also kind of do this, and I do this from time to time, is you can kind of split stuff, and then you can extrude it from that point. Like say we just want to go in this direction. So just like that, I can do an extrude. So it's like I'm in the cave, tunnel, oh, it dead ends, and then I turn left. And that's cool. And another thing you can always do in Maya is I can then have this cave, it's like a single piece. And then I just can kind of duplicate it. And then make sure to delete those faces. So here I have a nice long cave, and at this point, yeah, let's match those verts up. And yeah, this is where the Worldspace Tool really helps, because I can kind of join those verts. So yeah, that's a ton of different techniques. We have hard surface, we have terrain, we have like organic cliff, we have like caves, a lot of really nice kind of different options to get you guys going. But now you're probably wondering like, hey, where's the cool shader stuff? So let's create some shaders. So you'll click on the Master Chief icon here, and you're going to open Hypershade. The other way to do that is you can go to Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade, kind of Lambert, and then what you'll do is you'll create a 2D texture called a material Lambert, which is basically a dupe on that. But from this guy, we're just going to set his color to a file, and then change the image name, and that's just going to point to those shaders I shared with everybody. So I just put my shaders in C shaders just because it's nice and easy to find. And let's start with green. There we have a nice kind of green. And let's go ahead and duplicate this again. And then we'll set this one to be, let's go with brown is fine. And then I'll duplicate this again, and let's get a gray. And then just one more for beige, just so we can have what's like dirt as the ground. Cool. And then if you want to rename those, they're right here. You could call this like green. Becomes green. So now if I start assigning shaders, okay, that's green. So if I hide stuff, I can do this for show all. Oh, that reminds me, I'll go through the custom toolbar. Let's make this beige. So to assign a material from Hypershade, you'll select the the objects and then right click and do assign material. You can also right click and do select objects with material. Select all these rocks here. And make this brown. I'll make these gray. And then actually what I always like to do is make sure my ground is like a beige or a different kind of color. So you're probably wondering, like, where's the UVs are there? They're all stretched. So this is just the process I came across on the internet. Like I said, like Naughty Dog and 343, they have auto UV shaders, but since we don't have that, process to do it is pretty simple with this right here. So this I got from the internet, courtesy of this guy. It's a Maya checker size tool, and what it does is it checks the size of the UVs of one object in the scene and it'll apply it to another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 1x1 cube with the UV set to 1 meter. So here's my 1 meter cube, and now I'm going to click on the red Spartan. This is going to open up my UV editor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll out, I'm going to right click, go into UV mode. I'm going to drag select all my UVs. I'm going to hit R to scale and just scale these up to match the world space of a grid, and that's all it takes. So all I did was scale the UVs to match the size of that square. So now these UVs are 1-to-1. And now I have my checker size tool and I say use this cube for reference. And then that's not the only step. I need to automatic map the UVs so they're reset. And then when I click set, it sets it to 1 meter. And just like that, I go click here. And I do this a ton. And basically the bad news is every time you edit the mesh, you're going to have to redo the UVs. So see, they get all stretched. But that's fine because, hey, you can kind of do it. And sometimes it works with multiple kind of meshes. Let's see if it does it here. Yeah, totally does. Looks good. Let's get our cliff side going. So just like that, you'll have really great grid kind of shaders. You'll see here, like, it doesn't, like, it's not completely uniform, but that doesn't matter because it's totally enough. Because at any point I can be like, what's the width of this? And I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's 8. So I know that's 8. And then when I'm in game, I know it's 8. Big thing here will be getting the terrain. So that's going to look good. Just delete that guy. Select all the mesh. So another pro tip besides having like the 3D camera, keep trying to save, is being able to hide and select meshes. So say I have like my scene got really big, but really I want to focus on this house. So what I'll do is I'll start hiding stuff. I hit the all seeing eye, it'll do show all. Another really great move, my pro move is if I select everything and I do Control-1, that's called to isolate. And so now everything is on a separate hidden layer because inside of this mode, I still have my hide and show all. But if any point I hit Control-1, it'll show all. If I hit Control-1, it'll just focus on whatever I have selected. So my goal here is just to get this guy, go like this, and then select it all. And again, to be nice and consistent, I'm gonna make sure all my floor is this nice beige shader. So there we go. That's super good. And then, like I said in the presentation, I'm not going to fully export it into Maya. I trust you guys know how to do that now, how to trust an actor. But if I just select my whole scene and then do mesh combine, now it's one actor. If I click on this, this is my outliner shortcut, has everything in the scene. So all this mesh is called P cube, so I could call it like terrain with house. I don't really need to mind the spaces. Maya will put the underscores in there for you. If I hit Control G, it'll group it. If I want to drag it outside of the group, I middle mouse click, drag. If you're like, hey, I have stuff in my scene I want to hide or not hide, you can go here. So I open the properties window, but here there's also a layer system. So here this is like add to the layer, this is create a new one. So I clicked create with a layer. And then from here I can like hide it so it's completely gone. I could set it to this where you'll never be able, oh, sorry. Click here to, yeah, there, to R. So it's render only, so I'll never be able to select it ever again. T will put it in wireframe the whole time in your scene. So yeah, that's the layer system. Just about done. And then let's go through the through my custom toolbar. So we have center pivot, which you saw. This Forerunner doesn't do anything. This is the Worldspace Tool. Super handy, helpful. The Pokemon don't do anything, like I mentioned. These are just creating these assets. This I've been clicking a lot. This is the split edge ring. This is merge verts. So if you have like double verts or you want to just like combine them in one spot, you click this guy and I'll combine it like so. This was extrude. This has double because I was generating a hotkey, so just ignore that. But PartyCat was always my export into engine. This is show all, opens the brush tool. This is automatic mapping for UVs, and this opens the checker size tool. Thing about the checker size tool is sometimes when you run it, you'll notice your verts got really huge. The trick to that is just run like a different mapping, and then like sometimes I'll just run a planar and then map it and you'll see it's not right. But then when I run an automatic, because it's been like reset, it'll take it well. So just like that, you can get really great shaders, and don't worry if it messes up, just repeat the process and it'll eventually auto fix itself. Yeah, trying to think if there's anything else, but no, I think that's a lot of different kind of Maya techniques really for level design and what level designer is going to do. Oh, let's do Booleans, by the way. That's really good. So say I want to create like, hey, let's create a halo ring. So what I'll do is I'll go to create polygon, and here you have all these different shapes. So what I can do is I can create a cylinder like this, and then I can kind of just want to make a ring. So what I'll do is that'll be my base one. I am using all the hotkeys. F8 to go to object mode, and I'm going to run a Boolean operation on this. So Maya takes the first mesh selected, and then we'll subtract it from the second mesh. So I go to mesh, Booleans, difference, and then just like that, I have a ring. Sometimes like Unreal gets kind of confused with this, so you can do mesh triangulate, and I'll clean it. It'll run an auto triangulate. You could be like, oh, undo that, let's go quad. But you could see because of the ring, it couldn't fully recover it. At any point, if I want this mesh back, all I can do a separate. I'll do that. And this happens sometimes where the shader information gets corrupted because it was a single mesh, but hey, it's not. And then if I go to my outliner, you'll see it's now a group inside of that, which is good. But yeah, Booleans allow you to do like a lot of really cool shapes on it. Just kind of look here. You can run the mirror tool in case you want to mirror stuff. I tend to group everything and then mirror it and then figure out like the mirror kind of settings. That's in Let's see. That is in, where is it? Right here, mesh mirror. So here's another handy thing. So say I like end up with an empty face and I want to fill it. You'll just go to Mesh Tools, Append Poly. You'll select one edge, and then mine's like, cool, I'm ready to go. Select another edge. You'll select it and then press Enter, and it'll create that poly for you. I can then go to this and then extrude the shape on this. So it's pretty cool. Duplicate it and make stuff like that. So yeah, Maya is just super powerful, much stronger than Unreal because you're just dealing with actual 3D geometry. And you can split edge ring, you can edit the verts. You have this great Worldspace tool, and then we can run the UVs on them. So yeah, if you have any questions about anything, or you're going through Maya, yeah, the trick to all this is just, if you're starting out, you have to get your reps in. Just get the repetition in of like trying stuff and failing. It's pretty recognizable in design tests, like how experienced someone is in Maya based on how their geo kind of looks. So if you're starting, just like I said, build a map you love, and then fail and try again, and fail and try again, because you're just going to get better and better and better. Because yeah, you saw in the presentation, I built like that big full kind of city thing, and all the complex shapes. I promise you, I guarantee you, when I started at Sony London using Maya, my stuff was really not great. And there's another designer who had all the Maya knowledge, and it's just like, wow, you have all these processes and shortcuts to everything. Like, hey, the best way to develop that is just to sit down and go through it and find the ways that kind of work. So yeah, just sit down and go through it. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to message me, send me screenshots. Happy to talk about kind of process, but yeah, get to building, and yeah, have fun.